Welcome to the Jeremiah Show. My special guest today is director Jacquelyn Frohlich. Her new film, Wayward, follows 11-year-old Cleo, who becomes enchanted by the charismatic female hitchhiker that her mother picks up as they drive to their new home in Los Angeles. When Cleo and the hitchhiker form an unlikely bond, the line between kidnapping and running away becomes dangerously blurred. I screened this film, Wayward, a few hours ago. And Jacquelyn, I absolutely loved it. I thought that I knew a little bit of what to expect when I went into the screening because I read the log line, the preview basically, and I saw the trailer. But I was absolutely wrong. Besides your excellent storytelling, besides the superb acting and beautifully shot cinematography in the film, one of the words I would use to describe Wayward is tense. I found myself like moving in closer to the screen. I was tense as the story unfolded, and I went through every other emotion as I watched it as well. I was absolutely captivated by this story. I was pulled in, breathless, and I didn't know if I could trust any of the characters, which unnerved me a little. But I liked every character in some way, even the quote unquote bad ones, like those characters maybe that I wasn't supposed to like if this was any normal film, which it is not. You use brilliant storytelling to get us to find some redeeming quality in each character and at the same time root for their redemption. And I was amazed and became conscious at how subtly you did this. Just when you think you fully understand the plot, there's a twist about three-quarters of the way through, which adds one more layer of intrigue. And by this time, you are completely sucked in. As I said, it's genuinely brilliant storytelling, Jacquelyn, and this is my favorite film so far of 2025. So welcome, Jacquelyn, to the show, and congratulations on making such a great film.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And oh my goodness, thank you for that intro. I think I'm gonna record it and send it to everyone I know, including ex-boyfriends. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, they
Really,
messed up, didn't they? Look what I'm doing. Well, you're very interesting to me, and I don't want to embarrass you, but as a person and a filmmaker, an extraordinary filmmaker, how would you describe who you are, the honest, the real Jacquelyn, without, the titles that we give each other? How would you describe yourself, Jacquelyn?
oh wow, that's like a really difficult question to answer.
Yeah, I'm sorry to start it out that way.
I would say I'm sort of like a conglomeration of influences, and I think that's probably true of everyone, but especially true of mine. I grew up in Colombia in South America, lived there till I was 18, but I ended up I'm first generation growing up there because my dad's family moved there during the Holocaust, so they fled Germany. And so that influence of, I wasn't really at home. That's not really where we belonged, Colombia, but that was home to me. And then also my mother was American, is American. So
Hmm.
I had all these different elements, and I grew up in Colombia, which is just this beautiful, wild place. So I think all of that came together to form me in a sense.
I was going to ask you about Bogota, growing up in Bogota, Colombia. Uh, you've, I read somewhere where you said it was magical and poetic, and I wanted you to describe uh, through the child's eyes, your child's eyes when you were growing up. What was that like? What was the magic
Well,
for you? What
the
was
thing
the
about
poetry?
yeah, sorry for interrupting. The thing about Colombia that is just so extraordinary is that there's all these contrasts. And I think that's definitely something I picked up and you can almost see in my work. And for instance, Bogota was a city that's like New York City. It's 100% a city, but yet right across the street you can see cows and you will wake up in the morning to the sound of, chickens and roosters, but you're really in a city. It's not like
Mm,
you're in the country. And there's immense humility amongst the poverty. And I mean humility in terms of humility of character. I just remember that my friend runs this organization where we go and we build houses in the slums. And the woman that we were building the house for came out with like, a tray of coffee with like little plastic cups. And so it's so like you can't but admire that, and that's just
yeah.
into the culture, something so beautiful.
And I see the contradictions there, between the wealth in the city and the simpler life and the simpler people, the way they live.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, are you a fan of chickens and pets and
Yeah,
animals?
I'm a fan of all of I'm
Is
fan
it-
of both, city life and
Yeah,
chickens and pets, which don't always go together, but where I come from, they do in a really weird sense. I mean, animals walk it like there are a lot of obviously homeless dogs, but they're kind of like at home being homeless, and
yeah.
so they're not dangerous, you can pet them. It's like this very interesting place. I don't mean to make it sound like like in a way that's hokey or disrespectful, because it is full of magic. Just
It
also,
sounds like, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, even like this is like an advertisement, but the fruits that you have there, you don't really even have them anywhere in the world. And if they do have the same fruits, you can actually taste the flavors because the soil is completely hasn't been depleted. And it's
Wow.
something that you can't explain to someone until you taste like a mango, you know?
Uh,
Very different, like with colors, it has colors. Now I'm being dramatic, but not.
you're being an artist. You're
Yeah.
just, you actually changed my perspective, which I appreciate because anything I've ever read or heard about Bogota sounds a little bit scary.
Yeah.
And you've painted this beautiful picture. And to grow up as a child there it sounds like it was the perfect childhood, the perfect place to grow up as a child. Sounds
But it's
very,
also a scary place.
yeah.
That's
So
the
so that
interesting
part's not
part.
wrong. Yeah.
That's the interesting part. And I think where it connects with my story is that my friend's brother was kidnapped when we were in fourth grade. And I think I didn't even think about this until I was done writing the script, that somehow that must have really affected me and really sort of found its way into my unconscious. The things
Yeah,
that
right.
happen to us as children that we don't even remember or think we remember, we really affected us.
Now, were you classmates? Was it like he
My
was
best.
there one day and then he was not there the next, and you found
Well,
out that he had been kidnapped?
yeah, it wasn't my classmate. It was my classmate, my best friend's brother.
Okay.
And he was kidnapped with a friend of his, and they had to leave. It took about 3 months until he was released, and it was for money, for ransom. And then afterwards, they just had to leave the country. So yeah, that
Were you
happened.
ever were you ever were you scared that that might happen to you, that you might be kidnapped when you were young?
I mean, I don't remember thinking
You don't
that
remember it,
way,
huh?
but like I said, unconsciously, it must have really affected me
Mm-hmm.
because it's in the story.
Mm-hmm. Have you always been a storyteller?
Yes, I have been. I would say even as a child, I made up stories to make myself seem more special. I think I definitely told people, maybe this isn't even something I should say, but I told everyone my grandfather was the owner of Bubble Yum Company because I thought, like, I made up this story. Um,
Bubba Gump or Bubble Gum?
Bubble Yum, Bubble
Bubble.
Yum.
Oh, I
Yeah, that
love
was like a
bubble.
big thing in Colombia.
Yeah, Bubble
That was
Yum.
like a big deal where I mean, when I was little, Bubble Yum was it. So
It was it. I
yes,
have a quick story just to
yeah,
compare. I used to buy, remember you could get them for 25 cents, the whole
yeah,
thing. And they're
yes,
like five big pieces, right?
I
That you
know.
couldn't even chew in your mouth. I used
Um,
to buy those and then I'd get on the school bus and I would sell each piece for 25 cents.
oh my God,
Bubble,
Jeremiah.
yeah, I'm
This
with you on that.
Yeah, it was like the best gum. So yeah, I think I was always a storyteller, and then I went to I started out as a novelist. I went to graduate school for writing, for fiction writing, and I tried really, really hard at it. But unfortunately, that door never opened for me, even though I'm telling you, I slaved over three novels and I just tried very hard, got very close with one, but it just didn't happen. And I think it just wasn't my door,
Hmm. But
because
it,
with filmmaking, it was very different.
yeah, you opened up, you were able to use all the senses and all the, all that from music to the photography to the acting and all that. But you were able to use you're more alive than that. You've got more to offer to that, which you've done with this film Wayward.
Yeah.
Um, were you did you spend a lot of time alone as a child, or you said
I
you
mean,
made up stories to feel important? Did you not feel important, or were you alone a lot? Like, you, do you know what I
well,
mean?
I mean, I think
Because sometimes that's
every artist is I mean, the only way you become an artist is by sort of having to sort of make up something to make your life better. I mean, I think I mean, without just sort of disclosing too much, I think I was a very, how would I say? I mean, on the surface, my life looked very privileged, but I think life is hard for a lot of children,
Mhm.
and I was not an easily, I mean, I think I was a child who had sort of a mind that was always why, sort of, which is now a gift, but not so much when you're a child, you know? And so,
Do you still have that childlike quality of you say why, you ask why a lot. What's the what's something that you've just recently been fascinated by like you would be as a child?
I'm actually recently fascinated. I mean, this is a strange thing to say, but um, I was listening to a podcast about, how we do so many things and we don't even really we're not paying attention while we're doing it. So I was like, all right, well, when I eat my food that I make, I'm just going to do nothing but eat the food. And you really have a different experience. You can almost taste everything you're eating in a different way. I know that sounds super dramatic,
No, that's fascinating.
but it is kind of just really small things. Just like I'm really trying, obviously the world feels like upside down and I'm trying to have my contribution just be um, acts of genuine kindness and really acknowledging the beauty in the world for myself instead of going around and really acknowledging how crazy everything feels at the moment.
It's
Just feels
a
like
it's a
mass
change in
rebellion.
perspective.
Yeah,
That change in perspective that you're describing that you're going through right now. Um, it's always interesting to me how that's such a discipline that you really have to think about it, that you have to stop and think about some of these things that you're mentioning and to look for the good stuff. But it's there, right? It's there. It's
yeah,
and as a filmmaker, that's got to be really exciting to you to
yeah.
know that you can capture that
I
so that
mean, magic,
others can see.
yeah. I mean, I think magic is everywhere. really do. I didn't intend to say that. Like, I'm feeling a little self-conscious saying it because I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to seem like that pretentious girl who makes films. But I am going through this thing where I'll just go out and I'll be like, oh my God, that those flowers are just insane. Like, just
Yeah,
notice the smaller things and just the layers that are within the flower. You just
right.
never pay attention to those little things. So yeah, I'm just going through this thing of like magic is everywhere. It really, really is.
Well, I'm glad that you're saying that, and I wouldn't feel self-conscious at all. In fact, it was sort of what I was getting at. I didn't phrase it very well, but it was what I wanted to know about you, because, and that's because of what I watched in your film. There, there's you in that film, and I knew it was there because you capture perspectives and moments that a lot of times just fly past us and you don't notice, but you called attention to emotions, to facial expressions, to the light. One of the things I thought you did so excellently with your cinematographer is that you know um, a lot of times, and I don't know if this is conscious, but it read that way to me. So don't tell me it wasn't. If it wasn't, don't ruin my don't break that glass. But you shot through like dirty panes of window when
Wow.
things were not too
Yeah.
clear. It felt like there was sunlight coming through windows. There was, the reflections of trees and leaves, and I thought all those little details. It's the things in life that like we flash past, but it slowed me down to follow the story and get involved in the story in a way that I normally don't with film. I don't get that many great experiences like that, but I look for those films and I look for those experiences, and I think there's a big hunger out there for that as well. Another thing I love that you said is, uh, you find, I think, the language in the silence.
Yeah.
How do you use silence effectively in your films? And, if you could give me an example, what your intent is.
Yeah, I mean, silence is a language, and I think it's such an important one. And we're so uncomfortable with silence as a culture, but I think silence is full of noise. And if you just listen to it, you hear more than you hear when there is, words or where there's music. And I really, one of my biggest intentions was not to have a really big score, not to have, not to really take away the moments that will make people uncomfortable, because those are the moments that are transcendent, right? And that
That's interesting.
of our own life. And so I had to fight for that in a way because not everyone agreed with me. And, people get scared and they want you to make a film that other people, a little saccharine in it won't ruin it, but I feel like the opposite. I think the more truthful that you can be, you might not be for everyone, but you will be for the ones that are for you. And so I really fought for those moments of silence. I thought they were really important. And for instance, I think those the moments where we're alone with each character and there's no sound. We see ourselves, I like open a little space for everyone to sort of crawl in and be part of the story, you know?
And how did you knew you wanted to do that going in when you made this
Yeah.
film? And what moments in your life inspired that intent? Are there situations in your life where you're like, this is how it should be in my film, and this is how that we should give them space and give them silence, and if it's uncomfortable for the viewer, you're feeling something. So you're
Right. I'm just a fan. I'm a fan of films that are, you know, that are brave and let you sort of like not everything is in Technicolor. They're not sort of feeding you lollipops while you're watching the film. And listen, there's a place for those films. Those
yeah.
films are really important and I'm a fan of theirs. But that's not what I'm interested in doing. I'm interested in saying something really true and at the same time entertaining you. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean that it should be boring. But I want to say something true. That was like the most important thing for me, that I say the deepest truth that I understood at this moment. And it may be a different truth with my next film because I'll be braver. But that was just my one of my goals.
I when I described the film in the beginning, and as I was watching, I was taking some notes here and there of feelings that I was having, and I just wrote down tense, but I hesitated using that in the description of the film because I didn't want to minimalize any. It's not just a thriller. It's not just tense. It's so I hesitated using it, but it did make me feel that, and and a lot of it was that each character has time to develop, and you get to know them, and then you wonder. You thought you knew them because there's such a formula in film normally, but none of the norms were there, but
Right.
they were thrilling and they were tense and they were
Yeah.
uh, such a pleasure. All the performances and I even wanted to write down some dialogue, some phrasing that Cleo has about criminals. There's a line in there. I didn't write it down, so I'm going to probably butcher it. But she throws the book and says, "Why would I don't remember how it goes, but it's so good about criminals. Why would they have book? Why should they need the book? A book
Yes.
being
Yes.
criminal?" But
Yes.
that phrasing is so great. You know, it's like I look for those, just that great writing.
Thank you.
You started filmmaking in your 40s.
Yes, I did. Yes.
What? Go ahead.
So, okay,
Sorry.
so I'll tell you a little bit. I'll tell you the sort of like abbreviated story of it. I was working on a very big novel that I spent probably 7 years working on, and a friend of mine had produced a short film that had gotten nominated for an Oscar, and she wanted to create her own content. So she said, "Why don't we just write a script together?" And very quickly I realized, oh no, like basically writing a script is not like writing a novel, because a novel is intact. You have your voice, you know, it's you're saying something real and true. With a script, you know, you give it away and they can do whatever they want with it. And there's something about authorship that's really important for me. And so I decided, well, if I'm gonna write scripts, I'm gonna have to direct them. And at the same time, it coincided with the fact that I was getting divorced. And so I thought, I'm just going to be radical. Maybe I should go to like film school. And my friend completely talked me out of it. She's like, you have three little kids. There's no way you're going to make it through film school with three little babies. But I'll help you, you know, if you, I'll produce one of your short films for free. And that's how I started out. I started doing short films. I studied with Judith Weston, who's like, you know, she's like the horse whisperer to directors. She's worked with everyone and is an incredible resource. Um, has an incredible book for directors. It's called Acting for Directors. I'm just gonna say that because I can help so many people by just saying that. And so I worked with her for a few years, and then I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm not gonna wait for permission.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you did it. What else were you in your life before? What else have you been
Yeah.
besides a writer and a filmmaker?
Well, I mean, I
Mom.
think being a mom is a big thing that I've been, and I also worked at a restaurant as a pastry assistant. So yeah,
A hard job.
it's a really hard job. Yeah, restaurant work is really hard. My hat's off to anyone who works at a restaurant. Um, yeah, I think always I've been writing though. I have to say, pretty much since I discovered I could do it, I've been doing that.
Well, keep doing it. Please keep doing it. Let's take a quick break here. I've got so much more to talk to you about it. I am speaking with Jacquelyn Frohlich. She's the director of the new film, my favorite film of 2025, Wayward. You can go to Instagram and follow at Wayward underscore the film And also, you can go to waywardfilm.com. Sometimes getting lost is the only way out. While moving from Idaho to Los Angeles with her mother, an 11-year-old girl who is yearning for stability in her life becomes smitten with a charismatic female hitchhiker they pick up along the way. And that's all I'm going to tell you right now. You've got to see this film. It is right now, I believe it's out at the festivals. And so there's only a few cities that you can catch it in a theater, as far as I know. So it's coming soon. It's coming February 19th this week in Austin, Texas, at the Alamo Drafthouse Village. Got a lot of listeners out in Austin, Texas, and I've got a lot of family there. So I'm going to send them all to that screening on, again, it's February 19th at the Alamo Drafthouse Village. On April 4th in San Francisco, Alamo Drafthouse Mission. Um, is that right? Are they both the same? Are they
Yes.
those are both okay? I'll make sure I didn't misread that. On 3/11 in Chicago, Illinois, at the Alamo Drafthouse, Wrigleyville, and in Miami. Big a lot of listeners out there in Miami. Hello, guys. 3/13. You can see it at O Cinema on the 13th. That's where you can catch it, and I can't wait. I think it's in May that, or it's into March that it starts streaming. Is that correct, Jacqueline?
March 28th.
March 28th. So when when it's available to screening, I'm going to re-air the show, and I'm also going to let you guys all know and remind you to go check it out. It really is a great film, and I hope all of you will stream it or go see it in the theater if you can. We'll be right back with Jacquelyn Frohlich, director of Wayward.